Hi Kanukis, welcome to today's Slow Flow. We've got a short one planned for you today, and it's going to be thinking a little bit about how you hold your ribs and how you can use your glutes and how you can use the hinging action of the hips, which is often really forgotten about because we tend to get a bit locked up with the movement in our hips from all the sitting that we do. So today's really focusing on getting that hinging happening, using the glutes to help us and keeping the ribs in check as we do that. You're going to need a couple of blocks, so grab them or whatever you have to use instead of blocks, and you might also want a blanket. That's all. So enjoy the class, and I'll see you on the mat right now. Grab your props, and we'll make our way down onto the mat. Start off on your back with your knees bent, and have one block within reach. So make sure that your feet are not too close in towards your buttocks, because if they are, that's going to accentuate that lumbar curve of the low back away from the floor, and we want to just let that be a neutral curve. Just let it be relaxed. And with your feet, have them at about a hip distance apart, something that's comfortable for you. We're going to start with our fingers, the fingertips, just palpating the lower rim of our rib cage. So start to just play your fingers, little taps or little massage, just to explore the lower edge of your rib cage. Take those fingers all the way down to the sides of the waist and feel where your ribs end down there. And as your fingers make their way back up toward the center of the rib cage at the lower rim, just let them pause there. Soften your belly, soften everything in your body so that you're able to just gently dig your fingers in underneath that rim. And just so gently here, little gentle kind of grabs of your fingertips or little gentle pushes or little diggy kind of movement of the fingers to just grab in underneath the ribs there. So we're just getting into some really nice connection points of our diaphragm here, and also just bringing awareness to where our ribs are so that our brain can connect to them as we move through our practice today. And then wherever your fingers are, just walk them back to that center point at the lowest portion of your ribs, right in the center, maybe a couple of inches above your navel. And feel what happens now to that space there, that fleshy, squishy space, as you draw your ribs down into the floor. And maybe that firmed up your belly a little bit. Maybe it even pushed your fingers out of that soft, squishy space because it's not soft and squishy anymore. And we want to maintain this firmness. So keep that sensation of kind of locking down your front ribs, pulling your back ribs back down into the floor. Keep that sensation going. Now press into your heels to lift your pelvis just a few inches up away from the floor. Don't let the ribs puff up to the ceiling. Keep them fixed so that your fingers still can't get in underneath any sort of opening there. All right. And then once that is in place, your buttocks are up off the floor. Bring your fingers into your buttocks and just dig around a little bit, reminding them that they want to be turned on here. They want to be active. And we're going to ramp that up by just shuffle your feet maybe a little bit wider than hip distance, turning your toes out a little bit. Now, whatever position you have your feet in, you want your knees to be comfortable. So if your knees are not comfortable, you could try walking your feet forward. You could try bringing them back to a hip distance. You could try taking them wider. Test out different positionings of the toes, turned out more, turned in less. Find what works for you. And once you've found something, you're going to press into the heels. Don't let your feet move across the mat. we're gonna grip the mat with the soles of the feet and just feel like you're scrubbing the feet against the mat to dial them outwards. So there's not any actual movement of the feet. It's just this dialing action that then increases the work that the glutes are doing. So maybe you can feel that burn in the glutes a little bit more. That's what we're looking for. Check that the ribs are still fixed. Then bring your hands onto the fronts of your hips and just grab the flesh of your thighs and pull it gently down toward your knees, away from you. And that's going to just open up a bit across the front of the hips, and it should feel good. It might also lift the hips a little higher. It might also turn your glute power up another notch. And breathe here into the back ribs. All right, so we're going to stay here a bit longer. If your glutes are really having quite a challenge here, and perhaps if they're not ready to hold you up any longer, and if you can feel the work going into your low back instead, now's the time to bring in a block underneath your sacrum and let the sacrum come down onto it. You can still keep the activity in your glutes by pressing the feet into the floor and dialing them outwards. So keep that activity happening in the glutes, whether you're on the block or up off the block. And we're just going to stretch out or warm up the wrists here. So bring the fists up above the shoulders, reaching up toward the ceiling. Settle your shoulder blades into the floor so they're in a neutral position. And then open your fists up as wide as they'll go and close the fists in as tight as they'll go. Open and close, and find a rhythm that is as fast as you can go while still maintaining your maximum strength in the closing and the opening of your fists. So the combination of speed and strength is going to really warm up the tissues around your wrists and forearms pretty quickly. And just check in that your ribs have not popped up to the ceiling. Check in that your glutes are still firing nice and strong. Your feet are dialing outwards. Your breathing is steady. All right, I'm feeling that, so you guys must be as well. So we're gonna just release those fists and just roll out the wrists, and then slowly slide the block out if you had it there, and roll the top of the spine to the bottom, down to the floor. Okay, keep your feet on the floor, but you might walk them closer back toward that sort of hip distance again. If you have a block, bring it between your knees on the thinnest setting, so not the thighs, bring it between the knees. And squeeze it between the knees. If you don't have a block, you don't need it, just keep your knees at a hip distance apart. Don't bring your knees together if you don't have the block. All right. And then bring the hands in behind the back of the skull, cup the back of the skull, and interlock your fingers. Feel that kind of sensation of being able to lean your head into the hands to lengthen the back of the neck, so the chin moves a little bit closer in toward the throat. And then check if, like me, your ribs have popped up to the ceiling. Can you just close those ribs back down again? And with that movement, if you exaggerate that downward pull of the ribs, you'll find that your shoulder blades might start to lift up off the floor. If you don't find that, however you can manage it, lift your shoulders up away from the floor. That's where we're all headed, and we'll hold here. Close your elbows in around your temples. Keep leaning the head back into your hands so the neck is long and it's not the thing that's working here. Pull your ribs deeper down into the floor. See if you can reach your elbow tips up toward the ceiling. Hold here. Press the feet down into the floor. Squeeze the block. Shuffle your feet wherever they need to be so you can squeeze the block. And dial the feet outwards. So the glutes are working here. We're working our abs. We're pulling the ribs down. And we're reaching the elbows up so that we've got some shoulder activation too. So just breathe here. One more breath. And then as you inhale, come back down to the floor. And as you exhale, come back up off the shoulder blades. Good. Lean the head back, relax the neck, chin into the throat. Keep holding here. Look at your ribs. Draw them down to the floor and keep them there. Don't let them pop up. See how far you can open your elbows out to without letting the ribs pop up. And then close the elbows back in. Inhale, come back down to the floor. We'll do that again. Exhale, come up off the shoulder blades. Squeeze the block, feet press down, head leans into the hands. Good, ribs stay pulling down as the elbows open. Inhale, close, exhale, hold for one more breath here, and then release down to the floor. Exhale, come up off the shoulders. Okay, we're going to make it harder, but you don't have to if this is a challenge already. So keep only just with that elbow movement, nothing more if it's already a challenge. Here we go. We're going to pull the ribs down, lean the head back, open the elbows, close the elbows. This is where if you're finding this super tricky, you can come down onto your back already. Otherwise, stay up and kick your right leg straight. Reach your elbow tips up towards your right foot. So your thighs are parallel. You've just straightened your right knee so that it straightens your leg. Return everything back to neutral. Inhale. Exhale. Come up off the shoulder blades. Ribs pull down. Head leans back and open the elbows up. Inhale. Exhale. Pull them back in. Either come down if that's enough for you, or stay up and straighten your left knee. Now pull your elbow tips up toward your left foot. Good. This is hard. And release everything back down to the floor. Oh my goodness, we're gonna call it a day with those exercises. Come over onto your hands and knees. And come straight up into down dog. Now with all that strength that we just generated in the front of the body, use that now to keep the front ribs pulling up into the back body. Breathe into the back ribs. Push the floor away through the hands. Lift the armpits up away from the floor. Breathe here. One more inhalation. As you exhale, walk the hands backwards, back to the back of the mat, towards your feet. Bring your blocks with you, both your blocks. And we're going to meet in this position at the back of the mat, kind of like an Uttanasana, but a little bit different. Bring your blocks in front of your feet. Bring your hands onto the blocks. So bring the blocks to whatever level works for you so that you can have your palms flat on the surface. It can be lowest level, middle level, maybe the highest level. You want your palms on the surface, but not only that, you want to be able to maintain a long spine. So if you're down here and you're kind of rounded a little bit like this and it feels really difficult, just bring the blocks up and it's really going to make the world of a difference to you. And then you can get this feeling of, without moving anything, trying to pull the hands or pull the blocks backwards against the mat, and that will help to lengthen your chest forward, lengthen your spine forward. Try and keep a hold of those ribs because they're going to want to pop down to the floor as well. So keep pulling the ribs up as the spine lengthens forward. Chin stays neutral, drawing up into the throat. And then we're going to really sink the weight of the body back into the buttocks, into the heels. So keep the knees bent and slide the hips way, 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 way back. As you do that, you might find that you might need to come down a level because we've just deepened our hip flexion, but our spine has stayed long. All right, this is a happy squat, and this is what I will be using in today's class instead of Uttanasana and Ardha Uttanasana. So just feel what this feels like for you. Nice neutral spine, knees bent, hips sliding back, ribs are being anchored still in the front body like we did at the start of the class. All right. We're going to just go through a really juicy stretch to begin with here. Walk or shuffle your feet wider so that the toes turn out and come off the mat. You can go as wide as you want. I'm just going so that my heels are on the mat and the toes are turned out. Keep a hold of your blocks. You might want them still. Keep a hold of that feeling. You can bring your fingertips into your hip creases to slide the hips back again. Keep your spine straight, ribs in check. And then using a block if you need to or not, fingertips are going to walk all the way over to the right toward that space in front of your right foot and beyond. And your left fingertips too. And as you do that, can you pull your left hip back a little bit more so that your pelvis remains facing toward the front of your mat? Then you can let the head hang a little bit. And now again, pull the front ribs up into the back body and send your breath, your inhalation, into the back body as well. And see if you can feel that wonderful opening, that stretch across the back of the right side of the body. So that'll be in around, the left side of the body. So that'll be in around your left scapula, maybe down the sides, and maybe across the ribs, maybe down towards your lumbar back there a little bit. And then we're gonna walk the hands back to center and do that on the other side. Walk the fingertips, stay up on the fingertips, and try to almost drag the floor back toward you with the fingertips. On the left side, breathe up into the right side ribs. Pull the front ribs up into the back ribs to increase that sensation. Big deep breaths. One last inhale. And walk back to center. Okay, we're gonna start to heat things up a little bit here. So come back to that first position we were in, that happy squat. Actually, no. Keep your feet at that wider distance apart, just where they were. Heels in, toes out. You can go as wide or as narrow as you want here. Bring your hands into neutral on the blocks or on the floor in front of you. Hips back, ribs in, spine long and straight. You're gonna come to an upright position, standing upright, but you're gonna do so without changing the shape of your spine. We're just gonna change the shape, the hinging of the knees and the hips. So it's gonna come upright by pressing into the heels and dialing the feet outwards until we've got straight legs and we're looking straight ahead, pressing the buttocks forward into our hands on the fronts of the hips here. As you're here, check that the ribs haven't thrust forward. Check that you've still got that anchoring feeling that we generated at the beginning of class. And we're gonna come back to that kind of squat position. So let the knees soften and bend as the hips slide back. So the hips lead the movement here. And you can see that the spine doesn't need to change shape. The spine can stay in its neutral curve, keeping the ribs clamping down in the front of the body. Hands back to the blocks. And as you come upright, press into the heels, dial the feet outwards just like we did in the bridges earlier to find that power in the glutes that's gonna straighten your hips. It's gonna bring your hips into extension here, pressing the glutes forward into your hands and sliding the hips back. You can take this in your own time. We'll do a few of these. I'm going really slowly and you can stay slow with me so that you can keep track of your chin and your throat and your ribs all staying controlled in the front body, or you might speed it up if you think you've got a hang of those things. And if you want to key this in with your breath, exhale as you lower back down into the squat. Inhale at the bottom of the squat, preparing your feet and your glutes, and then exhale to come upright again. And inhale to check in with your ribs and lengthen your spine. And exhale to lower. Now that's really slow. And this gives us time to just think about how we're moving. If you wanted to speed it up, it might look more like exhale on the way up and inhale on the way down. That's up to you and what speed you want to take it at today. Okay, we're going to make this one our last one and finish with your hands on the blocks or on the floor. And wherever they are, if they're on blocks, you're gonna lift up the blocks as you move each hand and walk with them. Shuffle your feet back toward more of a hip distance. Keep your hips hinging back, your ribs in check. And we're gonna do a little baby bear walk to the front of the mat. So left hand will pick up the block and shift forward, and your right foot will come forward. Right hand with the block will shift forward, and the left foot will step forward. Then left hand and right foot, then right hand and left foot, left hand and right foot, and then 2 feet together at the top of the mat. And we're back in that happy squat that we started in with our long spine, knees above the ankles, hips back, chin in, throat lifted. And we're going to do that same hip hinge movement to come upright, standing up at the front of the mat. All right, we're going to go through a sun sail sea flow. So inhale as you reach your arms forward and up. And as you come back into your happy squat, slide the hips back and exhale. Right foot slides back, knee comes down to the floor, and this is where you might want your blanket if you have hard floors or wooden floors like we have here in the studio. And then come upright into your Anjaneyasana. And when I teach Anjaneyasana, I might teach it a bit different to what you're used to doing. So try this out today if you're not used to it. Instead of coming forward with the hips here, we're going to come into this more upright position. We're going to find a different way to get into this lovely stretch that we want to have on the front of the hips that just feels so good. So you're going to align your hip here over top of your knee. And to help us find that alignment, we're going to bring our left fist behind us on top of the right glute and our right fist in front of that right hip. Now press your two fists together and resist that pressing of the front fist by pressing your glute forward, and try to lift your glute up into that fist on the back as well. And the same in the other way, as you press your glute forward, you're resisting it with this right fist. So it's, even though the fists are pressing together, you're also getting that compression right into the hip. All right, take a breath here, check in with your ribs. Inhale deep into your back ribs. And exhale, hands come down to the blocks or to the floor. Step back to plank and let your knees come down. You might want to bring your hands off the blocks if they were on there. Take an inhale and lock your front ribs in place. As you exhale, keep them locked in. Lower with control down to the floor. Keep the heads of the arm bones lifted up away from the floor. Not here. They want to be here. All right. And then untuck your toes, press the tops of the feet down into the floor, and roll the lower tip of your pubic bone down into the floor. So it kind of tucks your tailbone just a little bit. And then pull those front ribs up into their firmed position, up into the back body. So it's going to kind of maybe shorten the front of the body a little bit, and that's just bringing you into neutral. And then reach the arms back at a diagonal, palms on the floor. Gaze down your nose at the floor. You might even put the tip of your nose on the floor just to bring your neck into neutral. And then we're going to draw the shoulder blades in toward each other as if we're squeezing a pencil between them. And with that, let your arms float up off the floor. Keep your arms in the air, but relax your shoulder blades and then squeeze them in again. And keep doing these pulses, leading the movement with your shoulder blades. If it's easier, you can keep your hands on the floor and just let them slide back and forth. So that's up to you, whichever you prefer. Checking that your ribs don't release and press down into the floor. Checking that your chin doesn't try and creep forward. It stays neutral in toward the throat. And all the movement is being powered by the shoulder blades, not the arms. If it's easier, you might bend your elbows more like a goalpost and try and squeeze the shoulder blades there. All right, hands under the shoulders, lift your ribs up into the back body to lift up into down dog, and keep them there. Inhale into the back body, bend the knees. Exhale as you step the right foot forward, left knee comes down to the floor, come upright into Anjaneyasana. Bring your right fist behind you on top of that left glute, your left fist in front of the right hip. Now find that same compression that we did before. Left fist presses into the front of the hip, and the glute resists that by trying to press forward. And same again, the back fist will kind of press into the body, but you're kind of pulling that front hip back to resist it. All right, take a breath in here into the back body, inhale. And exhale, two hands on the blocks in front of your front foot at the top of the mat, and slide that back foot forward to step the 2 feet together. Happy squat, hips back, sit into your buttocks. Press into the heels, dial the feet out to come up right to standing. Reach the arms forward and up, inhale. And exhale, hips slide back to that happy squat position. Lean into the hands to slide the left foot back. Left knee comes down. come upright. Now we're doing it a little bit differently this time. Bring your right hand onto the front of your hip. Bring the left hand onto the top of your thigh. That left arm is going to be your buttress. So in a moment, I'll show you what we're going to be doing first. We're going to be coming into arrowhead. And if this arm doesn't stay straight, it's going to mean that we're kind of sagging our upper body down. So that left arm is going to be our buttress to press into the hand to keep our spine long and our chest lifted and open. So that's where we're heading to. First of all, before we get there, you're going to bring your brain into that left glute and really tell it to turn on, to press forward, to squeeze and lift up, because it's about to power up that back leg as we press, as we kind of come upright. And we're going to lean our chest forward as that back leg straightens into our arrowhead warrior. And then we're going to come back down into this Anjaneyasana. So we're going to go back and forth between these two postures. And as well as that back glute, I'd like you to think about one other thing. And that's what this front thigh is doing, your right thigh. As you come up into your arrowhead, you're going to slide this right hip back, and your right fingers can help you do that. Kind of dig the fingers into the crease and slide it back so that your right femur, thigh bone, is sliding up into the pelvis. Your knee stays bent over top of the ankle. Come back into your Anjaneyasana, squeeze the left glute, inhale. Exhale, arrowhead warrior. Left glute still squeezing, left arm strong, right hip sliding back. Inhale, Anjaneyasana. Exhale, arrowhead. Now you can do this in your own time, and you can keep just with these two positions. If you're feeling brave and strong, your arrowhead might turn into a bit of a float of the back foot if you take a bit of a leap of faith. Now if you start to get that back foot off the floor, thinking about two things as you do that. First of all, it's that left glute that lifts the leg. So it's the power of the glute that brings the leg up into the air. It's not the back, and it's not letting the ribs sag toward the floor. You're keeping those ribs cinched in. The other thing is that your knee isn't coming forward, it's staying bent, but your right hip still slides back to deepen that hip crease. See what that feels like when you give that a go. It might feel a bit different. All right, so our right glute should be really screaming at us by now. We're gonna give it a break in a second. And let that left knee come down. Bring your left hand onto a block underneath your left shoulder. And keep this right hip kind of sliding back, your left glute turned on, and just turn your ribs up to the right. Let the left ear dangle down. And we're just taking this little low lunge twist break here. You can get a really nice release of the neck muscles if you bring your hand, kind of fold your elbow and dangle your hand, the back of the hand in front of the face. And then try to feel like you're a rag doll and someone is pulling your elbow tip up toward the ceiling as your left ear dangles heavy down toward the shoulder. Press into your left hand. Make sure that left shoulder isn't up around the ear, rotating or dialing that left hand outwards to help secure the shoulder there. Breathe and lean back away from that front leg, lengthening the spine. Whew. All right. So bring your hands to the floor, step back to plank, let your knees come down, and lower with control to the floor. This time, your arms are going to come out in a capital T, either side of you. Nose is on the floor or just lifted above the floor. Draw the front ribs in. Roll the lower tip of the pubic bone down to the floor. Squeeze the butt. Tops of the feet are on the floor. Maybe they just float off the floor. That's fine. And then squeeze the shoulder blades in toward each other to lift the arms. And then release the squeeze and squeeze it again. And release and squeeze. And release and squeeze. And release. And notice how difficult it is to maintain that firming of the ribs up away from the floor as you move the shoulder blades. And it should be really difficult. Check that you're not jutting the chin forward. You can still breathe as well. All right, last one. And then bring the hands in under the shoulders and lift up into down dog. Bend the knees and step the left foot forward. Right knee down, right hand up on the left thigh, left hand is on your left hip. Same as what we did just before. Right arm is going to be the buttress. So first of all, put your brain into your right buttock. Make sure it's squeezing, make sure it's active. And then you're going to push off those back toes to straighten that back leg and come into your arrowhead warrior. Left knee over the ankle, left hip where your fingers are, slide it back in space. And keep that right glute lifting up that right side of the pelvis. Right knee down, come upright, check in with your ribs, inhale. Exhale, ribs stay locked in as you come into your arrowhead. Inhale, knee down. You can move at your own pace. And you can add in, if you wanted to, you can add in that little back leg lift. So you're just standing on your left leg. And if you're doing that, you're still sliding the left hip back. You're still using that right arm as a buttress with the left knee bent. So it's like a bent knee warrior 3. And check in with your ribs, with your chin, your throat. Work with your breath so it stays calm and steady as you move. All right, I'm going to pause with the right knee down. Bring your right hand onto a block underneath your right shoulder. You're going to keep that right glute squeezing and kind of pulling that side of your pelvis back a little bit. As you turn the ribs to the left, lean back into your right shoulder blade. Right ear can dangle down toward the shoulder. Reach out through the crown of your head as you lean away from that left leg. And if you enjoyed it the first time, we can do it again. Dangling that left hand in front of the face, elbow reaches up to the ceiling. And feel as if it's an external force that's pulling the elbow up so that you can just release any hold you have on the muscles around that left shoulder joint, and then you'll feel that uncorking of the neck muscles. Last breath here. As you exhale, 2 hands to the blocks in front of you. Step the back foot forward. And then we're going to come from here, down with the bum onto the floor. And you can come straight into your Shavasana. You can stay seated. You might prefer to be on your belly or on your back. And use whatever props are going to make this really comfortable for you as well. So you might have a bolster or a blanket under the knees or a blanket under the head, or make yourself comfortable so that you can completely release all the strength in your body down into the floor. And feeling every part of the body becoming a little bit heavier and heavier as it sinks down. And with your mind's eye, draw an outline around the shape that your body is making on the floor. Visualize the imprint that your body is making within that outline. And then with every slow exhalation, let the weight of your body sink down deeper and deeper into that imprint. You can stay here for a few more minutes and stay for as long as you like. If you'd like to stay a bit longer than I will right now, just let my voice fade into the background and stay in this peaceful bubble, this heaviness in your body, the lightness in your spirit. And for those who are ready to finish the practice now, and slowly wriggle into your fingers and your toes. Open your jaw and circle on the lower part of your jaw. Open your mouth wide and let out some air with a sigh. Let's do that again. Inhale in through the nose. Open the mouth wide and sigh. One last time, inhale. Sigh it out. All right, finding your way, if you're ready to finish up, into a seat. Thank you, Kanukis, for joining me in this flow today. I hope you can feel some wonderful things in your buttocks tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day. Namaste.